This is Show Up as a Leader, a show from People Forward Network, helping you maximize your positive impact on the world by becoming your best, fully authentic self.
Hey everyone, it's Rosie. I'm super excited to have my friend Chris Johnson bring her new series, The Leadership Pause, to the show. In this series, Chris is going to unpack what it means to be fully human and access the best of who we are as leaders. And each episode is going to include stories, what she refers to as nerd science, which just is music to my ears. And she will always give a deliberate practice that we can try on at the end and apply so that we can show up as more embodied learners and leaders in our life. Take a listen.
It came to me as a surprise, the sudden awareness of my felt need for rest. I had known that the year would be full of challenges, what with the bumps and scrapes of being newly married, the on-the-ground care and support of my parents, with my dad's ill health and ultimate passing, the intense practice of training in Aikido, the martial art of peace. Ironic, yes? Not to mention the daily work I had with clients. Life was indeed full and focused and frenzied. Somehow, I hadn't really considered that I'd be so tired until I finally collapsed in a heap. By the time I did really notice the extent to which I was overbooked, busy, and always on the go, 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 as my dad would irritatingly say, all I wanted to do was nothing, not a thing. You see, I'd lost my rhythm, that natural interplay of energies between rest and work, between pushing to make things happen versus allowing life space for each moment to unfold. It's the kind of thing I warn clients about, how continuing to push too hard for too long and not attending to basic personal needs will wear you down, zap you of your energy, and make life a bit more tense and twisted. Worse, I knew better. A fellow coach recently shared about her stressed out clients that they always say, I didn't see it coming. Well, that certainly echoed my experience from over 10 years ago. While I'd like to claim I've mastered this inherent tension, I'd be pulling your leg. Learning to rest, our birthright, is an ongoing process of tuning into ourselves to recalibrate and adjust on the fly. Think of it like a gyroscope. Our bodies, our thinking capacity, our ability to feel into ourselves and others' concerns, to take effective action, our bodies require rest to recalibrate all of our psychobiological systems. In other words, we require renewal to meet the challenges of the day. We all know this, yet when we juggle so many responsibilities and opportunities, because we live inside of multiple commitments, too many commitments perhaps, it's easy to get caught up in all the action and rationalize and create excuses and to lose sight of what's really most important. Overcommitted and fearful of pushing pause to slow down, our energies float about in all directions like little bits of confetti in the wind. Think about that. Your energy as confetti. I'd fallen prey to what Annie McGee calls the grip of the sacrifice syndrome. Now, this syndrome is a vicious cycle of overmuch, and it's fueled by the wear of weighty responsibility. Ring a bell for anybody? Mental and physical fatigue, and a constant need to self-control in dealing with life's inevitable crises. When we're in leadership roles, we can often tighten our grip on the handle, on the steering column, right? And that kind of experience is what she calls the sacrifice syndrome. And it's a violent response to too much for too long. The result? Well, there are lots of results, but a big one here we're talking about, is that we get out of rhythm with ourselves, even and ultimately to the point of burnout for some of us. This wonky out of whackness is itself infectious. It spreads to others vis-a-vis strained relationships, dips in mood and self-confidence, impulsive or very rash decisions, and certainly compromised health. Moreover, it's supported by the very work structures many of us operate within. The antidote? Rest and renewal. Sounds simple, right? Good idea. Nature as a resource. Nature is both powerful and easy, and there's a flow to how the seasons unfold and life happens. Nature has a rhythm with cycles of light and dark, of growth and dormancy, of life and death. We're nature too, a fact that we don't often register or connect with, but it's true. We are nature. Yet we drive and strive, maintaining our busy lives for fear of not knowing who we really are. Our identity is often wrapped up these days in performance or proving or pleasing. So we don't know who we really are. And sometimes we just don't know what we actually care about because we're caught up in it all. Or we're uncomfortable with the silence of rest and renewal because we don't remember who we are at our core. And those feelings, that uncertainty, can make us agitated. There was a great study a number of years ago about this, where Tim Wilson actually studied people. They were so uncomfortable that given the option of being quiet and in their own space with nothing going on or administering a shock, the bulk of them, the majority, chose to give themselves shocks just to not feel that kind of empty space. In that space, it's worse often because we worry that we're not good enough or whole or just plain enough in some way, shape, or form. And as a result, it's easier to actually stay busy than it is to slow down and actually feel because we're afraid of an emptiness that we don't know how to fill. Yet if we don't slow down to experience what's within us, that's already there, by the way, we're just not allowing it out, we'll continue to fill our calendars and our to-do lists with all kinds of stuff needs to be done and the sense of urgency in order to fill the space. But that's not so with nature. So nature has a lot to teach us. Nature's all about the space to unfold and breathe and give birth to care and kindness, love and compassion, art and music. In short, life. Good relationships, learning to play an instrument, becoming skillful at a particular sporting event, processing compassion, all of those things take time. They don't fit easily on a to-do list, which is how we gauge ourselves, checking things off our list. But we don't gauge the value of the seasons by how quickly they progress from one to the next, do we? Of course not. Each season brings forth its own bounty in its own time. And our lives are richer when we can literally take the time to savor the fruit of each. You know, fall is one of my favorite seasons. And having grown up on a farm, we would go gather wood or chop wood and bring it back to the back so we could put it and have a fire. In the fall, we can gather a harvest for those of us who have gardens or who live on farms. We rake leaves, we prep our home for the winter, and ultimately at Thanksgiving, we give thanks. In the winter, we tend to be dormant, especially here in the Midwest. We're cocooned in with a quiet attention, and as the light gets shorter, we're challenged to reflect on the endurance of inner light, despite the darkness outside. In the spring, we prep the soil for planting. We prune what's been lost or dried, and we feed the soil and plant what's needed. Springtime and planting is one of my favorite times to get out there in the muck, but you can't do spring when it's fall. You can't do spring when it's summer. New flowers then, as a result of spring's unfolding, they delight us in the summer. And we tend our gardens and watch for pesky weeds that crowd out what needs air and sun, so that what needs air and sun can have it, that right move. We can rest in the freedom of longer days and warm nights and lose ourselves in the gift of the sweet air and time. Wayne Muller, the author of The Legacy of the Heart and Sabbath, Finding Rest, Renewal, and Delight in Our Busy Lives, has said, when we know the seasons of things, we can feel their time, their readiness. There's less pushing and more waiting to see what's actually necessary. It's kind of like a woman who's pregnant with a child. She knows that it's early in her pregnancy and that she has to wait. And while she's waiting, she's nourishing and preparing for the child in due time. When we live without listening to the timing of things, when we live in work sprints 24-hour work sprints without rest, we're on what Mueller calls wartime. We're mobilized for battle, right? Feels like that a lot. Feel that tension just now, even reading this. When we're on a 24-hour sprint, we feel the tension like we're fighting a war. Notice this in your body and congratulate yourself for having that awareness. We can do those 24-hour sprints and we can get work done, but at what cost and for how long? Because there are greater rhythms at play that govern how life grows. And they aren't all about making money and productivity. And we are part of that creation story, subject to its laws and its rhythms. In short, we need to remember who we are and actually relish in the rest, the moments that we have to tune into that beautiful flower, the snippet of conversation with a partner or a child. Savor moments, small and significant, that allow life's unfolding to nourish us, giving and receiving, pulling away only to return to the conversation, to the person. To surrender to the rhythms of seasons is to savor the secret of life itself. It's a tall order sometimes, right? But isn't that all that really matters in the end? To be fully alive and rested and able to enjoy this life fully. I promised you I'll always have a takeaway practice for you. Here it is for this month. Rest and renew. For the practice this month, take yourself on a walk, a rest and renew walk. This is a walk like no other in that there is no other purpose than being present in the moment and receiving the nourishment on your walk. There's no need for insight or revelation, no need to talk yourself into being calm or focused, or that you need to figure something out on the walk. Simply walk and allow literally your soul essence to catch up with you. Allow the nourishment to come. Set aside about 20, 30 minutes or so, and if you can, go outside and notice the elements around you, walking slowly and silently, tuning into your footfall, and walk without trying to get anywhere. You might amble or stroll and allow your senses to guide your walk. So notice if you're drawn to a stone or a tree or a leaf, and just go examine that stone or tree or leaf. You might notice a funky chink in the concrete or the shape of a cloud, or maybe there's a very fragrant grass or bush. Allow yourself the experience to check those things out and tune in fully to each of them. Allow yourself to pause, to linger longer and be present to the moment so that you can smell and touch and thoroughly observe whatever's right here in front of you. In doing so, you'll hear, if you listen, to what the moment says. You can see what it looks like and feels, what it has to teach you. Don't hurry. There's no place to go and there's nothing to do. Take all the time you need to hear the secrets of nature. When it's time, when the rhythm of being there gives way to the rhythm of moving along, you'll know that instinctively. Go ahead and trust that. When it's time to begin again, simply move on. Follow your own timing and curiosity, and when you are called to stop, go ahead and pause. At the end of your walk, notice what happened to your body and your mind and your sense of time. Observe the rhythms you've been immersed in and rest in them. I'd love to hear what you learned from practicing your rest and renew walk and how it feels to rest and renew. Now, as you can imagine, we're just scratching the surface here. In the show notes, they'll take you to my website, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. There's so much more to this entire topic of pausing to be present. And I cover a lot of this in my book, The Leadership Pause, that you can find over on Amazon or at your favorite bookseller. If you'd like to have a conversation about your energy and rest and renew and how to get that, sign up on my website for a free time to do just that at q4-consulting.com/executive energy audit. And in addition to this audit, which is a free conversation You can head on over to the same website, q4-consulting.com/leadership advantage quiz, to get a better feel for how your energy is showing up in your leadership and where you might find rest. It's a 10-question quiz, and it's kind of fun. So as we sign off today, remember that when we're attuned to the moment at hand, present to whatever it holds, including rest, we can make our best contributions by being present. This is power.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.